Guys and girls, Tom Panos here, coming to you from headquarters at realestate.com, the Sydney office. We are in for a 45-minute program that is going to help you win the world, win the game, and devastate your competitors using ratings and reviews, letting you know, get your mobile turned off. If you're watching it on a desktop, eliminate distractions. You want to be fully focused for 45 minutes. Pretend I'm sitting right there at your table with you, because in the next 45 minutes, we're going to show you how to win more listings. End of story. And by the way, I want to remind you, if you're watching this video, you're an agent in Australia, and right now it's 11 o'clock, Sydney, Melbourne. If you're watching live in Queensland, it's an hour behind. Those of you in Perth, it's even earlier on in the morning. I want to remind you what your job is, guys and girls. Your job in real estate, your core business, coming to you down the screen. Remind yourself, you are in the business of getting listings. Nothing happens without getting listings. That is your core business objective. Every day when you wake up, you must make up your mind, what can I do to get listings? And I'm telling you, in the world that we live in, the consumer economy, where there is a conversation happening between consumers about you, you've got to accept it, whether you like it or not. You have to participate in that economy because it's happening regardless. Here is some useful information that you need to understand. 50% of people, half of people, their biggest struggle, their biggest decision, the biggest dilemma, the thing that keeps them up at night when they're about to put their property on the market is, who am I going to list it with? Half the people. So yes, there's another half who may have an agent, a friend, a past business dealing that they've dealt with, but 1 in 2 are mentally shopping around for an agent. And I'm going to tell you that 74% of those people make the decision based on word of mouth. Here's why I'm excited. Because in the new economy that we're in, the digital word of mouth is so powerful. In the old days, people would sit by a barbecue and they say, oh, who did you use to sell your house? And they'd get into a conversation and one person heard it. Now you do a good job, you get a review, you get a 5-star rating, you've got recommendation on steroids, and this is word of mouth in the digital form. Guys and girls, I've got to say to you, it is the superpower at a listing presentation in 2020. All you've got to do is read the great book by Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book Influence. His second book, called Persuasion, basically says this: people are making up their mind about you before they meet you. There's no more blind dates in business. People will go off and they will stalk you online and suss everything about you beforehand. And that's why I'm saying, if you can nail this component of your personal brand, you're going to have an unfair advantage at the listing presentation. Because I believe that if you've actually got the perfect profile page with incredible reviews, great ratings, when you walk into that listing presentation, you've got eminence. Eminence, if you Google it in a modern dictionary, says someone that has superiority amongst others. And I've got to say, in my time as a real estate coach, 3 decades now, I've noticed the best of the best, the 1%, they've got eminence. They stand out. And I've got to tell you, you've got to stand out to win out. Never forget it, because it's really busy in the real estate space. So let me move on over and in fact, I'm going to bring up a slide right now of 3 agents, and we're going to look at their names quickly up on this slide, and you will see that these three people here are people that are dominating the space. The first one is a client that I can speak very closely of because he's one of my one-on-one clients, Josh Teslin. Josh Teslin, at 25 years of age, writes 2 million in GCI. He does about 110 transactions a year. And he's doing it out of Quakers Hill, not necessarily some prestige waterside area. And I've got to tell you, this guy dominates and crushes it with ratings and reviews. Next to him, you'll see Grant Smith from Century 21 in Budrum. And a big shout out to everyone in Budrum. You make the best ginger beer there is. And in addition to that, we've got Ricky Mayer, who's from Heyman Partners, and he's another great agent that's smashing it. As you're looking at that image, let's look at Josh's first. Josh's there is when you do a Google search on an agent, most of the times what comes up is your listing as a profile page on realestate.com.au. And that's why you've got to treat this importantly. Think about it. What's happened is they want to speak to Josh. So what do? Oh, what's Josh's number? So what do? They go to Google and they put in Josh Teslin. And what happens then is Josh Teslin comes up on his realestate.com profile page. And then what you'll see is it's got his ratings and how many reviews he's got. The next page you'll see is what happens is when you actually are looking at an agent's profile. And then the third one, I'm looking at a screen right here. That's why my eyes are veered off and I'm looking at the third page. And that's what happens when you open up and you start going through reading each review. So guys and girls, there's a bit of a benchmark of people that you can go off and see what they're doing. That's one of the great things about the world of reviews. You can go off and study what the best are doing. Success leaves clues. So one of the questions people ask is, where should you actually have reviews? And I'm not going to sit here today and just say realestate.com is the only place. There are a number of places you can be putting reviews on. There's no question about it. And I'm going to run through those. Of course, there is Google, Rate My Agent, Facebook, realestate.com.au. For the purposes of this webinar, a lot of the what to and how to is going to be actually directed towards realestate.com.au. And I'm going to tell you one of the main reasons I love the REA platform for reviews is this. It is a qualified audience. When they're on realestate.com.au, they are in real estate mode. These people have a higher probability of being an ISA. An ISA is immediate seller appointment. It is critical because in real estate, as I said, our core business is getting listings, and an ISA versus an FSA, which is a future seller appointment, is critical if you're going to smash it in real estate in 2020. The other reason I also like realestate.com.au for a platform for doing the reviews and ratings is that on Google, when you do a search, as I said earlier on, normally what comes up is your profile page. And people are so busy in this world of being time poor and socially media and digitally savvy that they look at that first listing. The third reason is this. If you're a sales agent, and the 700 or 800 people that have registered for this webinar generally are sales agents, it is a far more friendly website for reviews. You see, with Google, for instance, it's actually more suited to a real estate office versus a sales agent. They're the main reasons why I think this is the platform you've got to go off and dominate. Not just participate, but dominate. So let me move on and talk about the most important question. How do you get these things? How do you get a review? Well, the first thing I'll say is you don't sit there and have luck as your strategy. This must become a process. And I'm saying to you now, process trumps motivation any day of the week. You need to embed this in your process. And the process is this. So get your pen out or your mobile phone and write notes. If you use a phone or an iPad to take notes in, write this down. You get the review asked for ASAP as soon as the deal is done and has gone unconditional. That is when emotions are high. That's when people are pumped and energized. You see, if you ask for a review 5 days later, people have moved on. If you're a seller, you're focusing on your next purchase. If you're a buyer, you're shopping around for furniture and talking to your solicitor. The emotion and your connection with that client diminishes every day. So the real secret is that you must get that review as soon as the deal is unconditional. So, a couple of other things. The easiest way to get a review is to send the link which is on your profile page where the reviews are, and what you do is you work in a way that your client likes. If you've been dealing with them by text message, you send it as a text message. If you've been dealing them with email, use an email. I am finding that a lot of clients are telling me that they love the text message because they're with a phone all the time. They're not necessarily scrolling through all their emails on an hourly basis, but text messages is something that they're looking at far more often. So I would say a text message is something that you should consider. I know there's a group of people that, aren't that text friendly, but most are. And what you've got to do is ensure that you go off, and a really good example of when to do it is, and by the way, here's a tip that's going to help you. Because right now across Australia, the number one thing I'm hearing people saying is, Tom, I want to get more appraisals. I want to get more appraisals. I want to get more valuations. I want to do more listing presentations. Well, here's a strategy, and it works in very well with asking for the review. When you've sold a property for a buyer, what you do is you have a final inspection before settlement. You show up to that final inspection before settlement. And what you do is you say, I've brought with me some coffee vouchers and some breakfast vouchers for your first day in your new home. I know it's going to be busy, it's going to be stressful, so what I've done is I've brought these along. The second thing I've done is I've brought with me the names and numbers of 3 people that live in the area that are going to welcome you if you get stuck with anything. You want to find out when the garbage collection is, you want to find out any information, you call them, they're expecting your call. The third thing I'd like to tell you is this: for the life of while you're living here, I will be giving you a health update on the value of your home each year, every February. Guess what, guys and girls? Think about this for a moment. You sell 30 properties a year, you got 30 appraisals booked in next year. You sell 30 the following year, you got 60 appraisals booked in. 30 the next year, you got 90 appraisals booked in. That's the secret of playing the long game. And what do you do at this final inspection before settlement? You sit there and you say to the buyer, and by the way, it matters to me so much if you're able, in one sentence, to tell me what you thought of the experience with us. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the way that we get our business is it's what other clients say to clients in the marketplace. So what I'd like to do is ask you, would it be okay for you to say a few words? I'll send you a text or email. What do you prefer? You wait for the response and say, you'll be getting that as soon as I leave here today, within 30 seconds. And would it be okay that you can send that to me today? Because we run it as a process and we like to do it on the day before settlement. That creates a call to action, and that's how you get your buyer review. And by the way, that's how you're also booking another 30 appraisals in for the next year. In addition to that, what you say to your seller as soon as the deal is unconditional. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know the way we go about our business is we've become a very digital, social media type real estate company. We believe word of mouth is the way that we can let people know what we're all about. We hate having the commission breath approach, and we'd rather have other people tell the market what the service was like. Would it be okay for you to give me one sentence of what you thought of the experience with us and with me? What would you prefer, text or email? Would it be okay if I send that to you today and we got it done today? And that's the secret. I'm going to run through some Q&As down the track that are going to cover what happens if you're not getting any reviews, and we'll touch on it towards the end of the webinar. The next thing I want to talk to you about is, so you get a review. So what next? What next? Do you sit there and say, fantastic, they sent me a review? No, you don't do that. You participate in it. You engage in it. You actually show professionalism, because if they've taken the time to write out a review, you owe it to them to respond to the review. And the first thing I'll say as you're watching this is, Don't stress, because there's a group of guys and girls and real estate people across Australia right now that are saying to themselves, hey, what happens? What happens if I get a fake review? Well, the good news is there is a process in place. And that initial process is that you will speak to your account manager. At the end of this webinar, you're going to get this sent with resources, and there is an email there that you can actually send that to, which will explain the process, and you can report it, because REA is absolutely sure that they will take off any review that is not real. So let's move on. By the way, don't stress about bad reviews. I can tell you, whenever I go through and I'm researching a product or service, a holiday, TripAdvisor, whatever, let me tell you, if I see 5 out of 5 reviews and there's hundreds of them, I think not authentic. Something's not right. I'm telling you, there's believability. So don't stress. Don't stress if you're not getting perfect reviews all the time. And I'm going to say to you right here, right now, the best way to actually engage with your reviews is through the Ignite app. And what we might do is go to the slide towards the end that's got a few of the resources. You go to the App Store, download that app, and that app allows you to respond to the reviews. And can I say to you, you respond to every review, not just the bad ones, not just the good ones, to every review. Why? Because that makes it look professional. You respond to everything. And I'm going to go through and tell you, when I look at a company, any product or service, and I see that the company has responded to reviews, good and bad, it says to me that they're professional. So, the bad review. Let's talk about the bad review for a moment. The bad review is a golden opportunity to take someone who's not a fan and to become a raving fan. Get your pen out and write this out. Take the fight out of the review. I'll say it again. Take the fight out of the review. Take it offline and have the conversation away from the review. Why? Because you don't want to get into table tennis ping pong on the platform with someone. The next thing I'll say to you is this. Respond quickly, but maybe just give it a short period of time. Why? Because there's high emotion the minute the review has been written, right? And what I find is that the emotion dies down a little bit. But the most important thing is take the fight out of the review. And when you're talking to that person, and generally that person, it could be a phone conversation, because no better communication can happen by voice to voice. Look, in the ideal world, it would even be a good idea to see them face to face. And don't sit there from a position of trying to prove yourself right versus them wrong. There's no fight here. This is you purely trying to understand from a position of curiosity. Why did the client think that way? That's what you've got to do. You've got to think to yourself, because you know what a review is that's not great? It's feedback. It's feedback for you to take some element of your business and make it better. And yes, there is the occasional vendor that you've done everything possible right, and they still find the one thing, the small thing, and they make a big deal about it. But I've got to tell you, when you sit there and you truly listen, and they can feel the empathy and the energy, it changes the dial. Let's move on. Number 8. So how do you use reviews? How do you use this page to actually win listings, right? How do you actually get it to get more calls coming in? Well, let me tell you, here's your first tip. Pre-listing phone call. The call comes in. They're normally asking for an agent to come on over and value their property. What you do is you have the perfect pre-list conversation. So in that conversation, and I'm pleased to let you know, next webinar, which is going to be in March or late March, we'll give you a date. You'll know about it. We're going to be covering scripts and dialogues, specifically vendor paid advertising, which is the name of the game. Because if you're going to become an attraction agent, don't forget it. It's not who you know, It's who knows you. And the way you do that is through vendor paid advertising. And I'm going to be sitting with you and I'm going to go through all the scripts and dialogues to help vendors want to give you money. So let me just run through what you do at the pre-list. At the pre-list, you say, thanks for calling me. Can I ask you who referred me? The next thing, you're going to say, can I ask you a little bit about your property? You're going to build rapport on the phone. Some of the questions you're going to ask on this phone call is, by the way, have you ever sold another property before? How did it go? Can I ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, in selecting an agent, what are the things that you're looking for? Just some, nice warm rapport I'm going to give you in our next webinar on how to actually get the price that they're looking for on that phone conversation. But then you say this, here's the dialogue. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, before I come out to see you, what I would like to do is get your email and your mobile number. Because what I'd like to do is to email and text you the following. I'm going to send you a short link that's got a video of who we are and what we do. That video goes for 60 seconds and will give you a very good understanding of what we're all about. In addition to that, I'll be sending you a list of people that have recently bought and sold with us. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, it doesn't really matter what an agent says to you when they come on over. What really matters is what other clients are saying about their experience. So I'm letting you know I'll be sending you that link within 30 seconds of our phone conversation. Now, what you also do is once you get to the property, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, did you have a chance to look at that link I sent you? If they say no, you have a second opportunity. You have a second opportunity to actually open up your iPad, your phone, and go through and just show them some of the reviews and also potentially show them your video. That is far better done as a pre-list. Another way that you maximize and you amplify reviews is via the Ignite app. And that's why one of your action steps post this webinar is you download that app, because one of the things I like about it is one touch of a button, it goes to Facebook and Insta. So all of a sudden, you've got a realestate.com review, you've got it on Facebook, you've got it on Instagram. Gang, you are becoming the dominant digital agent. And I'm telling you right now, as I said, there are no more blind dates in business, and that's how you win it. Because there are people that are Google stalking you. There are people sitting on social media and they're reading everything. And I'm telling you that the numbers are very clear. 1 in 2 people are super confused about which agent to give their property. And what you're doing is helping them make a decision. Guys and girls, let me give you the big last tip on how to use these reviews to win more business. Get ready. Once you've actually uploaded onto Facebook and Insta, you can tag your client. And then if you've really hit it off with that client, if they're a raving fan, if they love you to death, you know what they'll do? They'll share it. And that, my friends, is recommendation on steroids. And if you're sitting here right now wondering how you're going to get your next appraisal, may I tell you, you've just heard the strategy. Let's move on, and I'm going to now move on to the page that has got some resources there. These are the resources that I think are the most important, right? The most important, and I've got to say to you, the Ignite app is going to allow you to do 2 things: to respond and engage with people, right? Once you have the review. And what did I say? You respond to everyone, good and bad. The next thing is your agent profile page. That is the simplest way for you to actually contact your client and get a reviews. And of course, the Agent Marketing Center, which is the place that realestate.com.au uses as home base for every real estate resource. And I think Olivia, who is one of the head of products in the business here, have I said that right, Olivia? It doesn't matter. To the person that's the head of product out there, it's all good. I've got the wrong person, but she tells me it will be on that platform, correct? And I want to let you know, as you're watching this right here, right now, I'm going to go through 4 questions that have come in previously to the webinar, and I'm going to run through those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off with something that everyone likes, which is 3 useful, I'll give you 5. I'll give you 5 useful scripts and dialogues to help the next 2 months before we meet up again. So, by the way, ideas without execution are delusions. Never forget that. So if you've just sat through this webinar and watched it and thought, okay, that was pretty useful, but do nothing about it, it's as good as you having not watched it. So here's your big action step. You want to nail it? You want massive action? Here it is. Go back to the last 10 people that you help buy a property and help sell a property. So that's 20 people. Here's your action step. Contact them. It's going to work a lot better with the ones that really liked you and you had great chemistry, and ask for a review of them. Because do you know, by Friday afternoon, you might actually have increased the amount of reviews on your profile page by 500% by this action step alone. So that's your big action step. The second action step is download the Ignite app. And the third action step is that you put this into the process, because going forward from today, every buyer and seller, minutes unconditional, you ask for the reviews. So let's go through some questions that have come in. The first question is, how do we get reviews even after 3 reminders to the buyer and vendor? Okay, good question. Firstly, did you ask for it right at the outset? Secondly, if you did ask for it right on the outset, did you ask for it by voice or face-to-face? Because I've got to tell you, if you're just sending out emails and saying, well, they never sent anything back, well, let me tell you, a lot of people actually just scroll through emails and only really look at the ones that really matter to them. So never forget that. Nothing is better than a conversation. Did you have a conversation? The third thing is, if you've gone off and you've asked them 3 times and you verbally asked them and they're not giving you a review, well, hello, read the play. There might be an issue there and they might not have been as happy as you were. So I would say that if you've gone through the process, as I said, and they're still not giving you a review, hey, move on. I love the words in real estate on a 3x5 card, next. Sometimes you've got to move on, right? You can't go off there and be intimidating and have commission breath, right? End of story. So let's move on to the next one. And that is, what is the perfect template script I can use to get sellers, buyers to give me a more detailed review than great agent? Good point. You ask for it. You ask for a sentence. You ask for a paragraph. You say, I don't want just 2 words. And I covered it earlier on in the webinar, and I'll cover it again. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know, one of the biggest compliments that you can give our business is a short paragraph or a few sentences of what you thought of the experience of dealing with me and my agency. That is our biggest compliment. Would it be okay that I sent you a text or an email to get that done today? What would you prefer, text or email? That's how you do it, and you emphasize a few sentences or a short paragraph. Are realestate.com.au reviews as effective as Google reviews? Well, hello, you're probably sitting there and you're saying, of course he's going to say realestate.com. He's in their office. Well, let me be very clear. I'm not an employee of realestate.com, but I will say this. One of the reasons why I do like realestate.com.au reviews, those Google reviews, is that Google reviews seem not to be as friendly when you're a salesperson. You see, when you are a salesperson, you Google your name, there's a platform that comes up that allows reviews. Many of you do not have My Google set up, right? So that's one of the reasons. But the main reason that I prefer realestate.com.au is you've got a qualified segmented audience of buyers and sellers. who are on the site because they are in real estate mode. Do you understand? They're out there hunting. If they're a seller, they're on the page looking at all the sold properties, trying to work out what the value of their property is. They're on the site looking at who's selling all the stock because they want to go with the agent that's got social proof. So what's the reason? You've got a qualified audience that is in real estate mode that is more likely to be an A-class buyer or an A-class seller. And what does that mean? Someone that's going to be doing business in real estate in 60 days. Next question. Should I capture reviews across multiple platforms or just a few? How do I go about asking for multiple reviews? Hey, so here's the answer. Of course, the more the better. Of course, cover every platform. However, if you're finding it challenging and you find it's too hard to actually get multiple reviews of people, hey, realestate.com, Facebook, Insta, you've covered most of the audience. And you can do that pretty easily by using the Ignite app to get the review from the client, upload it into Facebook, Insta, speak to the client, tell them to share it, tag them, do what you like. You want them to tell their friends. Nothing's more powerful than them telling their friends, hey, I sold with Josh Teslin. He's the guy. He got us top money. Guys and girls, looking at the time, we've got around 13 minutes scheduled. And I'm not afraid to finish this webinar early if we don't get any other questions because I've allowed some time to do some scripts and dialogue. Have we had any other questions coming in? And guys and girls, I'm not going to ask for any other questions because I feel like we've covered A to Z. But if you have, feel free to put it in there and we'll make sure we'll answer them. Now let me run through very quickly. Here are 5 scripts and dialogues to actually help you at a listing presentation. And this is gonna whet your taste buds for the webinar that we're gonna have in March, which is gonna be on vendor paid advertising. And here are 5 scripts and dialogues just whetting your taste buds, just getting you excited about what's coming up next. Here is my first piece of dialogue that I think you need to master. When you're sitting there and the client says, oh, but Tom, the other agent said that they would do it for half the marketing, your response will be this. Or even if they say they'll pay for the marketing, your response, I've seen lots of owners lose tens of thousands of dollars at the time of sale because they tried to save a few $1,000s at the time of listing. Let me show you how to avoid that mistake. Script number 2. When a client says, oh, but Tom, I know that you're saying, realestate.com Premiere and video and Facebook, and all these other media and, it's going to cost how much? $3,000? That much? Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I can understand and appreciate that $3,000 might seem like a large amount of money, but I'd like to remind you, the $3,000 is an investment in the profits. And a far better question to ask yourself is this: what's more important to you, the risk of over marketing by $3,000 or the risk of underselling by $50,000? That, my friends, is a very powerful dialogue that Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in 1979 for behavioral economics, studied, and that is that people feel more pain losing $1 than pleasure winning $1. So the dialogue you use is, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what's more important to you, the risk of over marketing by $3,000 or the risk of underselling by $50,000? Third piece of dialogue. Oh, Tom, the other agent said that they've got lots of buyers on their database and that they don't need to do too much marketing. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we also have 4,000 people on our database. We also have social media platforms that we can attract a buyer to. But a better question I'd like to ask you is, are you looking for the first buyer or are you looking for the best buyer? Because I've got to tell you that my experience is that in real estate, which is a marketing game, your home is coming on the market in competition, not in isolation. And our job is to outmarket the competition. And my experience is that when you go with a cheap agent, it can actually become very expensive. In fact, what I'll say to you is that the cheapest agent and the best agent is generally not the same agent. Number 4 is this. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to remind you, marketing works in combination, not in isolation. And that's why I've given you a broad mixed campaign to ensure that we find the passive, the active, the local and out of area buyer. I refuse to mismarket your home and apologize later. And the last piece of dialogue is this. Never get into a fight with vendors over price. In fact, move the discussion from price and take it to process. And here's a good piece of dialogue. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, it is the process and not the promise of a price that will get you top dollar. Can I go through that process? Guys and girls, they're 5 short scripts and dialogues as an intro to what we'll be doing at our next session. I hope you have really enjoyed this session. And as I say, nothing happens if nothing happens. Go off, take massive action. And by the way, everything I spoke about today is free. If it's got to be, it's up to me. It's over to you. This has been Tom Panos signing off at realestate.com's office here in Sydney, where we've just spent 45 minutes trying to understand how to win the consumer economy of ratings and reviews. Make 2020 your best year ever.